Consultants don't all just start with bottles, models, and private jets. In fact, my starting salary was just £21,000 a year. That's £1,600 of take-home income in London, guys. I mean, I was sharing a tiny flat and living off Tesco meal deals. Honestly, it was a low point of my life for sure. But fast forward to 5 years, I was making close to about £150,000. And if you climb all the way to partner, well, you can start making £350,000 all the way up to multi-millions if you're lucky. So today, I'm breaking down the salary progression from a fresh grad all the way up to the holy grail of being a partner. And I'm also going to share with you what you actually do in each level in terms of your responsibilities. What's up everyone, my name is Jack. You may also know me as the Korean consultant, and I'm a former consultant at Bain, and on this channel I share everything that I've learned over the last 5 years in consulting. Today's agenda is quite simple. Firstly, I'm going to be revealing all the salaries between an analyst all the way up to a partner, and it's going to be an approximate average based on publicly available information, because obviously I'm not allowed to share a single specific firm's compensation structure. And then I'll cover the reality of what your job actually looks like in each level, as well as some insider tips that you might not necessarily find on Glassdoor. Alright, so let's start off with where most people enter, the graduate level, or some firms call it the analyst, associate, or associate consultant, depending on the firm. At this level, your base salary will be around £50,000 with around £10,000 of bonus on top. You're essentially at the bottom of the food chain at this level, and this is where you're going to be referred to as the data guy or the data girl at your firm. Your main responsibilities will be gathering information, right? Whether that's through online research, whether that's through digging client files, primary research like expert interviews or surveys. Basically, all the information that you need or your project needs, you're going to be the one that's gathering all of that. And then a B, your responsibilities would also be output generation. So building slides, crunching numbers in Excel, or generally doing the tasks that are too time consuming for the more expensive consultants like me, for example, to do to free up their time, right? And I guarantee you that during your first 2 years as an analyst or a graduate or whatever, you'll have that, oh my God, this is the worst deck ever moment where you're actually going to build a 100-page slide deck just to have it cut down to 10 pages just before the client meeting. It's brutal, but it is normal and it happens, so you better get used to that mindset. And then after 2 years of being an analyst, you might get promoted to an SA, also known as the senior analyst, or sometimes we call it the super analyst. At some firms, this is actually a promotion point, whilst in other firms, this is an automatic click up. Your base salary is going to be around £70,000 generally, or 130,000 USD, with £15,000 or 30,000 USD on top. At this point, you're still doing the analysis, but actually now you're running mini work streams. What I mean by this is this is literally where it's just you in the work stream. And it's known to be one of the most crunchiest period of your consulting career because you're planning your work, but also you're executing on the work. And there's only you on the work stream. So you're basically owning a piece of the project and delivering end to end. I mean, that's why you're called the super analyst, right? Because you can think independently, you can also deliver high quality output with minimal supervision from your seniors. The pro tip at this level is to build a strong relationship with others SAs or the super analysts, senior associates, whatever you call it, because you basically can't survive alone, right? So you need some templates, sample models, sample core guides, sample output slides, etc. Try to circulate it as much as possible, obviously within the confidentiality boundaries, and try to benefit from each other and be there for each other, you know, because it's going to be a tough time for you. And then after 6 months to a year as an SA, you then become an associate or a consultant level at some firms. Now, this is the milestone that most people care about because it's actually where you break the £100,000 mark in the UK and $200,000 mark in the US. Your base salary will be £100,000 in the UK, and the bonus will be between 20. Some firms pay up to £40,000 in bonus. And at this level, guys, you're basically officially running an entire work stream and managing 1, 2, or sometimes 3 analysts underneath you. About half your time is going to be spent planning and guiding, such as reviewing slides and putting a big please fix sticky on top of the slide, doing, feedback coffee runs, and also leading juniors on client conversations too. The other half is still execution, although it's less about being in the weeds of the data itself and more focused on the structuring and the story, pressure testing the analysis, and making sure that your first year analyst who had 4 hours of sleep last night is still delivering quality slides. Pro tip at this level actually is to delegate as early as possible. I mean, a lot of the new consultants or associates often redo their analyst work out of fear of, oh my God, they're gonna do a shit job. But that's how you end up working twice hard, right? For the same output. So start delegating early and trusting your analysts more because they deserve to be there and they've obviously earned their spot to be in your company, right? So they just need that one more cup of coffee and they're going to be able to perform. And then after about 2 to 3 years, you can get promoted to an engagement manager or a project leader position where your base salary is going to be around £140,000 with bonus around £70,000-80,000 on top, again, depending on the firm. And this is where consulting really shifts over because suddenly you're not just responsible for one work stream, you're responsible for the entire project, right? Your job is now part coach, part editor, and part client relationship manager. The analysts and the associates and the consultants, they're doing the deep dive analysis, but you are the one that's making sure it all ties together into something meaningful for the client. I mean, you'll spend a lot of your time actually guiding the team on where to look, like in terms of where to focus their analysis on, reviewing their work, and also helping them level up their skill sets. But equally important thing is that you're actually managing the client. You are the main client contact. So you're the face of the project on a day-to-day basis. You have to keep the clients happy, steer the conversations with the right people, and make sure that the expectations are aligned so your poor analyst doesn't get another 4 hours sleep. At this level, guys, your first steerco meeting will feel like an exam. I mean, you'll get grilled on numbers that you didn't crunch yourself. It's gonna be your poor analyst that did it. And the rookie mistake here is saying, I don't know. Consultants love to say, we'll circle back later on. And then you step up to an associate partner position, again after 2 or 3 years of your time as an engagement manager, where your salary is going to be close to £250,000 plus or $400,000 plus, I guess. You don't usually own revenue targets yet, but you do own entire cases, right? Sometimes even 2 at once. At this level, you're often the main point of contact for the client's leadership team, i.e. the sponsor of the project, for example. This is because partners are often very thinly sliced across multiple projects, right? They might be doing 2, 3, 4, or sometimes even like involved in 8 projects. So you as an associate partner might be the one that's actually running the show and making sure that everything lands very smoothly. Now, I'm not sure what the base and the bonus breakdown is for the associate partners, but I just know that earning $250,000 as an associate partner sounds pretty dreamy to me, to be honest. Lastly, guys, if you're hardworking and if you're lucky enough, you might just reach that holy grail of being a partner at a consulting firm. This is where you make serious money, right? So the first year partners will make on average around £350,000 or I guess $500,000 to $600,000, let's say. But as you go up and become a senior partner or head of a practice or hell, even head of a region, you might just make multi-million pounds or multi-million dollars a year. And this is where consulting actually transforms completely. I mean, as a partner, you're no longer paid for delivery, and instead you're paid to bring in business and provide expertise. The 2 biggest jobs for partners is actually firstly to generate revenue by selling projects, because it is a partnership. And then secondly, provide your expertise, industry expertise, and have authority in the sector that you specialize in. And be the person that the clients want to hear and buy their opinions from, right? Because that's what dictates whether you're going to be a good selling partner or not. On top of that, partners are also ultimately responsible for the quality check. So before any deck or any slides go out to the client, it runs past the partners. Most of the times this actually happens after midnight, and what this means is that if the partner doesn't like a single thing about a slide, they might just send you that please fix email, and then the poor analyst that had 4 hours of sleep maybe will end up having just 3 hours of sleep tonight. Also, a pro tip here is that most of the partners I've spoken to so far in my life says that networking is super important, especially at the beginning of your career, because I mean, by the time you're a partner, 80% or more of your impact actually comes from relationships built earlier on in your career. That's why networking internally and externally from day one really is important, and most of the juniors don't really realize that. So to recap, guys, in consulting, your salaries can go from around £60,000 in total from a grad level all the way up to £350,000 or multi-millions as a partner. But every step obviously comes with trade-offs, right? I mean, late nights, higher pressure as you go up the ladder, and yes, a lot of spaghetti bolognese at the junior level too, if you get what I mean. So what do you think, guys? Is consulting worth it? I mean, love to hear you guys' thoughts. Drop your comments in the below. And if you want more consulting, application tips, salary talks, salary progression videos, hit the subscribe button below because I've got plenty of more stories about consulting coming your way.